everyone, my name is Gabby, and it's been a few weeks since I've last uploaded. Definitely not my longest hiatus, but still a little bit of an absence. A large part of that is because I've been working move-ins every single day for several weeks straight for 4-hour shifts, and when you're doing that, by the time you're off of your shift, you are just either exhausted or you're like going then to dinner, you're doing other RA stuff. Like it felt like it never ended. So I've been using that time to relax before classes start, watch some Netflix, have some good food, go out with some of the other RAs, get stuff done. But now the school year has officially started. I have finished with my first class for the day, first day of classes for the semester. And so I wanted to celebrate by filming this video, which I've been meaning to film for a while, but I've never gotten around to it, mainly because I wasn't sure whether I was gonna upload it or not. And now, because it just seems like the right time, I'm thinking, why not? And in this video, I want to talk about journalists that inspire me. So you may or may not know, but I am a broadcast journalism major and a social media minor. So ideally, I want to go into arts and entertainment journalism and be an arts and entertainment beat reporter. I love A&E just because storytelling has always been a constant in my life, whether it's books, movies, TV shows, musicals, music. There's certain storytellers that really draw me in because there's something about them that I resonate with that helps me to understand a little piece of myself, that helps me to understand the world a little bit better, see it in a lens that I wouldn't normally be able to see it through in a different context. And a large part of my life has been finding different journalists that I resonate with and sort of taking bits and pieces of their style and using it to create my own. And so in this video, I want to talk about those journalists that have inspired me, how they've come into my life, and what it is about their style that I really enjoy. Maybe I'll leave links down below to certain interviews that they've done that have really caught my attention, that I really love, that I recommend you watch depending on what fandoms you're in, or if you're okay with not being in the fandom but just watching a good interview, those links will be there for you. So I'm excited to dive right on in and do this. I think I'm gonna go chronologically and sort of just take you through the journey of different journalists that I've found on my way to becoming a broadcast journalism major. I have a list of 8 different organizations that I want to talk about, or people, and we're gonna just jump right on in with it. I really knew that I wanted to go into journalism around my freshman year of high school. Before that, I wanted to go into acting because I always really loved storytelling, and I thought the only way to really be a part of that was to actually be the person telling the stories. And a large part of that was because there were so many actors and actresses that I loved, and I'm like, I want to be friends with these people. I want to know how they're telling the stories that they are, what it's like to be on a set shooting something, because I always loved bonus features. Bonus features were my favorite part of buying a DVD for a movie or for a television series, and getting to see all the behind the scenes stuff and the bloopers and all of like the cool extra things that you don't get access to when you're just watching the final product. I thought that the only way to really get to be a part of that journey, that process, was to actually get to be on the set, and I figured the best way to do that would be to be an actor. But I like very shortly realized that I'm probably not the best actor in the world, that that's just not my calling. There's still like parts of me that on certain days would be like, I really want to be an actor, but I feel like it would have to be such a specific story if I were to be an actor in it. It would have to be like almost written for me. I feel like I wouldn't have the versatility that I think lots of other actors do who are clearly way more talented than I will ever be. I ended up finding journalism, and that was my new outlet because I could report on these really cool stories in movies and maybe get to go on the sets as a journalist and get to just watch how something is filmed and then write about it once the thing actually comes out, and then maybe be friends with certain actors, people in the entertainment industry who are telling stories and have them as like sources for whatever it is that they're creating, to be able to like have those connections. And I think the first person that I really saw in this industry that sort of gave me that light bulb moment of like, that's a beginning for what I would like to do, is Lara Spencer. So I grew up watching Good Morning America. I would wake up every morning with my mom while I was getting ready for school, and before I got in the bus, I would have Good Morning America on. And I always loved Lara Spencer's pop news segments. I always just thought they were so fun, and I know I got to see her growing up up covering the Oscars in these pretty dresses, and she was talking to all these amazing actors. I just really loved her segments, and that was just the first person that I saw that I could identify with as a journalist, and it gave me an idea of arts and entertainment, broadcast news, rather than print news writing, and I think that was where it all began for me. I don't think I identify with Lara Spencer as much as I used to when I was younger. I think a large part of that is because I found other journalists that are a lot more niche, that are a lot more narrowed down in terms of what it is that I want to do, but I don't think I would have gotten into journalism if it weren't for her setting that initial example for me at such a young age and sort of giving me that idea of what it is that I'd like to do. I also think some of the things that Lara Spencer has said and done recently over the past few years has sort of not sat well with me. Still, I'm really grateful for the presence that she had in my life and the influence she had in my life, because I think it gave me a direction, and you gotta start somewhere, and I think a lot of her pop news stories and the interviews that she's done was a beginning for me in terms of where I want to see myself. So then around 5th, 6th grade, I started to get into the Hunger Games. And when I get into something, it's not just reading the book. It's I want to know what it's like to film this movie. I want to know all the different aspects of the story and all the trivia and little behind the scenes things. I want this story to become a part of my identity, especially when I'm really, really passionate about it. There's some stories that I'm more indifferent towards, but obviously The Hunger Games was the series that got me into reading, so it was like fully head, feet, toes, everything all in the water. I wanted to be fully immersed. And so with that came watching lots of interviews that the Hunger Games cast did. And particularly, I found one journalist who is now probably one of my favorite A&E journalism people out there, and that's Joshua Horowitz. I don't know if you know this guy, you absolutely should, because he does so many amazing things for MTV, and I love his content immensely. So many of the interviews that he does are so fun and so entertaining because all of the actors and celebrities that he's sitting down with feel so comfortable with him, and they just joke around, and you always have interviews that just fall off the rails, but in the best way possible. And it's so entertaining to watch if you're a fan person, because you just feel the nerdiness and the fan culture. It's just there in the air. Like, you know, when you're at a convention and you're just surrounded by lots of other nerdy people and you just feel like you're in your environment, especially if you're normally really introverted and those type of things freak you out. It's that feeling, and I love it. So many of Josh's interviews for the Hunger Games franchise are just some of my favorite interviews ever, because they gave me an idea of social media journalism, and like, I can interview these people, like this is something I could do, like this is a real job. I've grown to like love the content that he's done with Tom Hiddleston, the slumber party interview that he did, the little Loki mini script short that he did. He did one also with Tom Hiddleston and Jessica Chastain for Crimson Peak that was fantastic. These like cute little script things that are so funny and adorable. All of his interviews with Tom Hiddleston, he's done so many interviews with Tom Hiddleston that are all fantastic, and I just recently went back and watched an interview that he did with Josh Hutcherson, and it brought me back to those days of the Hunger Games, and it was so great to see the two of them together again, both the Joshes, and it made me miss my childhood. It made me like realize like this is where I got started. He just asked the best questions, and you can tell he's so passionate about what it is that he's talking about, because he's asking these fun, nerdy questions, and he's asking questions that fans would ask, and the actors that he's talking to, he has a great camaraderie with. Like, you can just tell that he knows what he's doing and that he's good at his job. His interviews, they're never awkward. They're always so much fun, and you're genuinely filled with so much joy watching them. I would love to work under Josh Horowitz. I would love to shadow him. I would love to just watch him do his thing and take millions of notes and just learn about his process, how he got into what it is that he does, because he's so fantastic. It is just exactly what I want to be like as a journalist. Getting to go to the Comic-Cons and having like a little booth where you get to sit down with different people and ask them about the stories that they're promoting, get to do other sit-down interviews for press. He also has a podcast. Like, everything that he does, I am on board for, and he is so incredibly fantastic. I cannot imagine that I would have stuck with journalism had I not found him. Like, he is like the thing that really solidified for me, like, this is something I want to do, and this is it. Like, the social media type journalism, YouTube videos, rather than like broadcast news. At this point, we're at like my freshman year of high school, and I'm looking at like what type of news organizations would I want to work at, what type of journalism would I want to do, and I found Build Series. So originally, Build Series was owned by AOL and now they're owned by Yahoo. This platform, I find a lot of people do not know about it, which is really upsetting because it's one of my favorite arts and entertainment journalism platforms out there. It's a studio in New York City, I believe, in Hell's Kitchen, if I am correct. The interviews there are like about 30 minutes long in front of a live studio audience. You have a journalist and then you have whoever it is they're bringing in. They have brought in authors, they've brought in actors, they've brought in directors and musicians and all sorts of different people within the arts and entertainment field, like theater people as well, all under the umbrella. All the stuff that I'm interested in, books, movies, TV shows, music, theater, it's all covered at Build Series. And you have interviewers who ask such great nuanced questions and really engage with the person that they're interviewing with. And then you have the live audience component, so fans are able to come and they're able to ask questions. Obviously COVID has changed some of those things a little bit, but the platform as it was when I first discovered it was the dream. I was like, this is where I want to work, this is what I want to be doing. And there's so many great journalists that are in that little bubble of working for Build Series, of doing interviews for them, that just are so fantastic. I would love to work for Build Series. That's the dream for me. I particularly found out about Build Series through Laura Haywood, who you may know as Broadway Girl NYC, because of all the theater interviews that she was doing. Like, I would just go through and watch all the different interviews that she was doing, Hamilton cast members and other theater people, and then I was like, oh my god, this celebrity that I really like was also here, and this one, and I watched so many different interviews, and every single interviewer that is on the Build Series team is fantastic, and I can't shout all of them out here, so I'll just be linking certain Build Series interviews in that description down below from journalists that I really love. But Build Series is a great platform. I think that for me was even more of a narrowing down of like, here's the specific institution that I want to work for. So it's starting out from that general thing to here's the specific person that really inspires me, to now here's an organization that I want to be working for. So now getting in a little bit more on like the nerdy pop culture YouTube side of things, this is something I've been doing since I started high school, and I haven't really grown the way that I would like to. I think this has kind of just become more of a personal thing, but I think it's helpful for me to see that something like this can become on a bigger scale if you are drawn to the right audience and you have some really unique inventive idea. So the Hamilcast is a podcast that was started by Jillian Pensavalle. She was just like really into Hamilton, so she's like, I'm gonna start a Hamilton podcast where I talk about Hamilton. And I don't think when she started the podcast she had even seen the show yet, and now she's basically like the official Hamilton podcast, and she's interviewed Lin-Manuel Miranda, she's interviewed everyone in the cabinet, she's interviewed all of the different members of different tours, all the pretty much like a decent amount of the original Broadway cast, maybe even all of the Broadway cast. There's people from the Chicago company, people from touring companies, other theater people, people involved in the behind the scenes of Hamilton. The names that she's talked to are endless. All of that just came from her starting a fan project in her own home, and now it's become this big official thing. And so that's another inspiration for me in terms of my own independent projects, and seeing that that's something that's also an avenue for me, that if I ever want to start an independent project, that it's possible to have journalism through that route, that you don't need to just have official organization, you can also do your own thing. And I want to have that. Like, ideally I want to be able to start a platform elsewhere and then use that to bring people here and be able to do more fun, informal, casual things using this channel. Seeing the Hamilcast as successful as it's become has sort of given me that model for this is something that I can do. And it's also made me consider actually starting a podcast, because I think a lot of my videos are extremely long because I have very nuanced thoughts that are hard to just capture in a 5-minute video because I could go on forever. I think a podcast is a better outlet for me than YouTube, and I think listening to the Hamilcast, starting to listen to other podcasts, gave me an idea of using that as another outlet and potentially learning those skills once I get into college, because I haven't gotten to take any podcasting classes yet, but I would like to, just as electives for fun. Fingers crossed that I get to do that at some point. So the next person that I want to talk about is another journalist that I really like, and I can essentially consider him like the UK equivalent of Joshua Horowitz, and that's PLUMB. So once I started to get into Marvel and the MCU, I started to watch lots of Marvel press, and this is when I really saw the best and worst of press, because Marvel press is really difficult to cover because you have to be really good at asking questions and asking good questions, because so much of Marvel is under lock and key, so you have to know how to ask engaging questions that are still fun and exciting but also don't get non-answers, you know? So much of the questions that a lot of journalists ask are non-answer questions because the actors sign NDAs. There's only so much information that they can say about the project that they're working on because spoilers. So you as a journalist can't really ask ask plot-related questions, like especially with Avengers Endgame. There's not a lot you can ask there. So you have to be really skilled at asking fun questions, and I think that comes from just being passionate about the subject matter and just being really nerdy and having fun with the people that you're in the room with, and PLUMB is great at that. There was one interview that he did with Scarlett Johansson and Paul Rudd where he just fully was like showing them memes on his phone, and it just was absolutely nothing about the movie, but it was just fun, like nerdy content, and that's great. That's the type of out-of-the-box stuff that you gotta do when you're handling certain entertainment industries or companies, corporations. I don't know the specific terminology to use there. You get what I mean. When you're put in that tough situation where you know I can't ask anything about the actual content because I'm not gonna get any answers, so I need to do something fun instead. He's really great at that, and again, he's just super passionate about everything and asks such fun questions, and he has such a great personality, and everyone that he sits down with genuinely seems to enjoy talking to him because he has a good personality, because he's invested in the interview, he's doing his research, he is a nerd. You as a geek, like a nerd watching these interviews, you see a piece of yourself in him. It's great. We need more journalists like that in the arts and entertainment field, instead of people who are just shoved into a room, given questions to ask, and just spit them out. No, that's not how we want to do things here. So this is another organization that is not exactly a news organization at all, but I just kind of want to bring it up here anyway, and that's Nerd HQ. So this was started by the very, very lovely Zachary Levi, who I love and adore, and I think we have a lot of very similar thoughts about things. I've listened to podcasts that he's done about mental health and spirituality, and so much of the conversations that he has and his thoughts I've just resonated with, and like some of the podcasts that he's been on, I've been in tears listening to them because it just felt so cathartic to hear about things that he's went through and to just resonate with them. And so he started this really brilliant organization called Nerd HQ that had events at Comic-Con, and he would just bring friends with him to this event, and there'd be a live studio audience that would be just hanging out, getting to do a Q&A and ask questions. Zach would be moderating, or we would have a moderator to ask questions, and it is this sort of like press thing. You're finding out information about something that someone's promoting while they're at a Comic-Con. So I put it under this umbrella. Pretty much all the proceeds money that were raised were going to help with Operation Smile, which is a great organization. I just love that it's a entire little community that's based around nerd culture. That's amazing. That's another organization that I would love to see myself working for, because it looks like it's being revamped, being rebooted. It looks like there's going to be a comeback for that organization. I want to be involved. Zachary Levi, if you are watching this, I am here. I am a college student. I am available. I am learning. I am going to have the skills to be able to help promote the hell out of this at some point, and I want to help. I love Nerd HQ, and I love everything that it stands for. I love the nerdy environment of getting to be surrounded by other people who are also nerds and getting to just have this free-flowing conversation where the fan community is actually part of the questions that are being asked, because a lot of journalists don't understand what it's like to be a fan. They only come at it from a perspective of being a journalist and asking analytical journalism questions that are just sort of looking for a certain agenda, looking for a headline. It's not actually about being a fan, asking those fan questions, deeper, nuanced, nerdy things that only fans would know to ask. I think you need someone who can do both, who knows how to ask those analytical journalism questions, but also knows what it is to be a fan. Nerd HQ allows for that sort of fan culture to be brought into the journalism world in a little bit of a unique way. I needed to bring up Nerd HQ here. I love it very, very much, and more links to find out about Nerd HQ will be in the description. So many links will be in the description for this video. And the last person that I'm gonna bring up is someone who I found recently, who I adore so much, and that is Jamie JIRAK. So I found out about her through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She did an interview with Clark Gregg that was fantastic. I was watching it the entire time and I was like, yes, 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 yes. She has interviewed, I think, a lot of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast members. I believe she moderated the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 100 press event, which I have not gotten around to watching yet because I've been busy. I started watching it for only like a few minutes and then I had to pause it because I think I was doing something else. I've been meaning to watch it forever. All the tweets that she's put out about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., just especially her Jeff Ward tweets. Anyway, we love Jeff Ward in this house, clearly. That shouldn't surprise you if you've been watching any of my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. videos. Moving on from that though, she's just such a nerd, and she's a journalist that is also a nerd person. I feel like that's the common theme of this video. I am super into journalists that are nerdy people that take their nerdiness and monetize it and just get to interview actors and celebrities and storytellers and people that they really admire. That's the goal, folks. And so any journalists that I can find that have that personality, personality, that have that nerdiness, that are gonna ask the fun, nerdy questions that all of us nerds at home want to hear the answers to. I'm gonna be on board for. Jamie's fantastic. I think she does a little bit more writing for comic book. I love her and her Twitter account. I love her Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. press that she's done. It's fantastic. I'm grateful to have recently discovered her. So that's about it for this video. There was an 8th sort of organization that I was gonna include, but it really didn't fit under that like A&E beat, so I may leave it to like a part 2 if I want to talk about like hard news and hard news journalists that inspire me. Then we'll save that for part 2. But for now, we're just gonna talk A&E. This video was really long. I just wanted to just shower all of these journalists that really inspire me with love, and this was the way that I decided to do it. I hope that for all of you that are starting up your academic year again, that you're having a good start to your academic year, that you're doing it safely, and that you're taking care of yourself. For any of you teachers and educators out there, that you are taking care of yourselves, because I know it has to be a lot to be putting assignments together, to be working with students who are also equally stressed out. Like, it's a really hard time in education right now, so please everybody take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for watching if you made it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed my content, like, subscribe, share it with a friend who you think will enjoy it. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time in a new one. Goodbye.